Welcome to the Conscious Conception Show with me, Sue Ritchie. This show will take you from confusion to clarity, confidence and emotional healing to a joyful pregnancy. This is the place where we uncover the real truth about fertility and why preparing for conception, mind, body and soul, is more important than ever. With honest, empowering conversations, we'll explore the hidden factors impacting fertility and how a holistic approach can help you take back control of your journey. Whether you're trying naturally, navigating IVF, or just starting out, know this: you're not alone, you're not broken, and you're already on your way. So let's walk this path together. Hi, I'm Sue Ritchie. Welcome to the Conscious Conception Show, and I'm so delighted to have you join me today. And also I'm excited because I'm joined by Camilla Miller, who's a master parenting coach, and we're going to be talking about a really important subject: why parenting starts before conception. I know you're probably thinking, but I'm not even a parent yet, so why do I need to be thinking about that? So let me ask you this. Have you ever wondered how the way you prepare before pregnancy can really shape the kind of parent you become and actually have an impact on the future of your child? No, I get that. It's not something that people commonly talk about. And you know what? You're not alone in that. We're going to discuss today things like why your emotional health before conception can have a profound impact on your child, how to build, a nurturing environment for your baby even before they've been conceived, and the link between your own upbringing, unresolved trauma, and the way you parent. Plus, we're going to be sharing practical tips on how to create alignment with your partner, around things like values, discipline, and even household support. So I'd like to introduce Camilla. And I'm just so, as I said before, I'm so delighted to have her here on the show today, because she's got some amazing wisdom all around parenting. She's a master parenting coach, qualified primary teacher, author of Keeping Your Cool Parenting, and it's a workbook. She's a mum of 2 children and has an award-winning blog. And also, as I said before, she really has a wealth of knowledge to share around better parenting. So Camilla, lovely to have you here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
That's marvelous. So can you sort of start by perhaps telling us a little bit about, how you started becoming a sort of parent coach? Was there some sort of particular event, but particular situation, or what got you started into wanting to be a parenting coach?
Yeah, well, really, I credit my daughter really, because I didn't really think about my role as a parent before I had kids. And my firstborn, my son, is now 18. He's just gone off to university, but he was the most easiest, laid back kind of boy ever. I think he's had like one tantrum in his whole life in 18 years, and he was just an easy baby. And I thought, do you know what? This parenting thing is pretty easy, because he was just an easy baby. And I think it was only when my daughter came along 2 years later that I remember the day I brought her home from hospital. She sat up, looked around the room, and I was like, she's like, bam, I've arrived, kind of baby. She was like walking super early. Her tantrums, oh my goodness, she used to take over family life. We used to joke that the witch had come to visit, and I'd be fighting with my husband over the best way to discipline her. And like, she literally took over family life, and everything I was told to do backfired. It wasn't working, and it left me feeling like there's something wrong with me. It's supposed to, the naughty step's supposed to work, and all this kind of stuff supposed to work, and it wasn't. So I started doubting myself, thinking it was my fault. And then I started thinking there was something wrong with my daughter. And it was only there was this one moment I was dragging out of the supermarket because she just had a huge tantrum. And I remember thinking to myself, I'm going to win. And this was the first step. I was like, oh my goodness, if I'm winning, she's losing. And that was the first step. I was like, why am I trying to win over my 4-year-old daughter? And that was like this realization, like something has to change. And that's when I started doing more research and understanding the dynamics in relationships and understanding how humans work. And I was like, there has to be another way, how to get the behavior you want, not have your kids rule the roost, still be in charge, but have a loving relationship. And that's when I became across language of listening, which is a coaching model that was founded in America. It took 2 years training to become a master coach, and you still have ongoing training. But it just makes perfect sense when I share it with clients. They're like, why did no one share, why did no one tell me this before? And that's what I wanted to, I wanted to stand on the rooftop. Why did no one tell me this before? I want to tell everyone, because it just makes life so much more easier and more enjoyable with children. And especially, when we talk about preparing, like understanding how humans work and understanding your role within the dynamic and within the family really helps you prepare. And I wish I'd had this years ago. I would have saved years of heartache and stress with my daughter. And that's my role now, is to support more families to have techniques to actually enjoy parenting. Because so many of us just want to make it through the day, and we're not enjoying, we're counting down the hours to bedtime or when they're at school. And I want to enjoy the time with my
Yeah,
children.
I agree. It's
Really.
such a precious time, and sadly, it goes all too quickly as well. And they're grown up, and yeah, it's absolutely
Yeah.
really important. I must admit, I personally, my partner and I were, didn't even have those discussions, and people don't generally. It's not something that people talk about, but certainly with hindsight, I really wish that I'd known a lot more, and could have people, had people like you around, if you like, to help. And, certainly for me, I sort of, there was, I suppose, a situation I had with my father, a thing of my parenting, which really didn't go on to serve me very well. And he was, incredibly critical of everything that I did. And, and sadly, if you like, and no reason to expect any different, but I sort of turned out to be quite a perfectionist. And I also, have lots of times when I really don't feel good enough at all.
Yeah,
And and also I think the other thing is sort of becoming a people pleaser as well, which isn't very
yes.
helpful in life
Especially
and
with
as an
children.
adult.
Yeah, especially with children, because if you're people pleaser with your children, you can't be, because you have to be in charge and you're going to have to hold boundaries, and your children aren't going to like it. And if you're a people pleaser, you go past your boundaries to please your children. So they end up ruling the roost, you get resentful, and it carries on this cycle. Yes, it's very hard being a people pleaser and a parent, definitely.
It is. So I personally, actually, I'm sure, you perhaps recognize this as well, is that when I did have my children, I actually, there were things that I didn't want to sort of do again, if you like, if in my parenting. So I did make that conscious decision to, not be critical and not to do those sort of things. But
Yes,
sadly enough, there are some subconscious things that play out as well that I wasn't aware of, and I wish I had been in
exactly.
hindsight.
Yeah, exactly. Also, I find with clients is that they don't want to do what their parents did to them, but then it's very easy without techniques and ways of doing things, is to go too far the other way and become super permissive, which isn't good either. And it's having tools that, if it wasn't modeled to you growing up, it's very difficult to do. I have so many clients. Wow, it never would have occurred to me to do that. And I'm like, yeah, well, of course, because no one's ever shown you that way. No one's ever communicated that to you. So it's really have the awareness and the skills to be able to do something different and
Absolutely,
effective.
absolutely. So I just suppose interesting. So I suppose what do you think are the biggest benefits then for sort of couples who are, thinking of conceiving and they're about to sort of become parents, and if they're already in a good place physically, mentally, and emotionally, and I suppose again, what are some of the things that people can do in order, what things should they be discussing to really prepare themselves for parenthood?
Yes. Well, first off, parenthood it's like such a massive life transition, isn't it? And that awareness, we don't realize how your life is going to change. And I never forget our first holiday when my son was about 6 months old, and my husband was like, "What? We don't get to stay up all night partying and doing water sports all day." And I'm like, "No." And it was the first realization for us that, oh my goodness, our life doesn't look the same. And it's just that realization too, having those talks about how your life's going to change. and having space to be able to have those conversations. How will, how will your child fit in with your daily routines, and what do you need to feel supported, all those kind of things. Because a lot of us don't even have those kind of conversations about, going out to the pub in the evening, those kind of things. Like, that's going to change. Your life is going to change. It's not going to be so easy just to be able to that freedom. But also, to pairing in advance, it really helps you enter parenting with, with real intention and understanding, rather than just, reacting in the moment, because especially when you're like sleep deprived, you're not used to all these, with a new baby and everything is new. It really makes such a huge difference when we're intentional, and it helps you meet those challenges with, with more calm and connection. That's really the key, isn't it? I think those kind of things, is the awareness of how life is going to change.
Yeah,
And
and
then
I
I
think
think,
it's huge, isn't it? That I think that it's very difficult unless you actually do sit down and really have those conversations, going deeply into it. Because I think, people say, oh, yeah, but your life's going to change. But unless you actually sit down and discuss it and really think about how it's going to change and what the impact is going to be, because once baby arrives, it's like everything is sort of all up in the air.
yes,
And you need that sort of foundation, if you like, to be able to cope with all those early days, if you like, with a new baby.
100%. And I think without that preparation, it's really easy to slip into resentment and competition. Otherwise, if you don't have those conversations, it feels like one person is doing more, and that's when resentment grows. And the resentment grows from, unmet needs and unspoken expectations, and we're not aligned. And that's when those kind of, when I remember getting into these conversations with my husband, and it's kind of like a competition about who's slept less and who's done more and who's doing more. And I remember having this realization, oh my God, it's not a competition. But this resentment was really building. It was a moment like, why am I? It's not a competition. And I think when you get into that can really damage relationships, when we feel like we're in competition with our partner, and like keeping score. Who's got up more often in the night? Who's doing more feeds? Who's cooking more? Who's working more? And that's really not a good place to be.
No, and I think it's not a good way of either, because, unfortunately, I think a lot of people don't realize when you've got that sort of underlying emotional stuff going on, baby picks up on it. And,
Yes.
they sense that there's an undercurrent and things, and, that can actually have an influence on how well baby sleeps as well, because they're not settled, if you like, and feel comfortable.
Definitely, and it takes away our emotional capacity to be nurturing with our baby, because we're worried about relationship and fighting about things. But I think talking about the benefits, I think, of doing the work before baby comes, is really just builds trust and connection, so that when challenges do come up, it doesn't threaten our relationship. So we are aligned with that, and we realize those challenges that happen, that's not a reflection on the state of our relationship. That's really key. Also, the ability to communicate clearly, to really understand the dynamics in relationships, and how we communicate, and how our communication styles might be different. And what we, I don't know, like if I'm really grumpy or really tired, I might be snappy. I don't know, most of us are really
I
snappy,
think we
but
all
if our
will be.
partner, we all be, but if our partner interprets that as being rude or aggressive, then it comes back, and then you feel, you end up feeling misunderstood, and and it's like this never-ending cycle. So it's the awareness of how communication works is key, and not just for ourselves, but that also works, for our children as well. So do the groundwork, and that's really helps. And then also, when we do the groundwork, we're more like team players. If we're talking about it, we're more like aligned, working together, rather than feeling like in competition. And as you said before, it really is, the babies really pick up on that sense of security and the atmosphere at home.
They certainly do. They certainly do. So what happens, do you think, if parents don't discuss, what are the things that you see as sort of examples where, parents haven't had these discussions, and then the issues and things arrive, when, after baby's arrived, or probably even, when the child's a bit older?
Yeah, they come out in their dynamics, and they rule the way of, how your family function. And a lot of them go unhidden, they go hidden. and we're not even aware of the dynamics between us. So that's a lot of the work I do, is unpick the unspoken dynamics between that really go on between husband and wife, and with their children. I'm quite good at this now. I can have half an hour with the family. I'm like, I know these hidden cycles you're and because you're in the thick of it, because parents, we are in the thick of it. It's like going through the forest and you can't see the wood for the trees. You don't realize these dynamics and you think it's something else that's going on. So we can spend years focusing on the wrong things, and understanding these dynamics. You can have a half an hour conversation, like, oh, you just see it so differently. And then you can actually work on actually what's really happening. And things change so quickly from there.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of working with with somebody like you, because I think with everything, always, if you like, when you stand outside of the situation, you can see things so much more clearly than when you're actually deep in it, if you like. It's very, very difficult, as you said, to see the wood for the trees.
Yes, yes, and it's such a realization that, oh, it's such like parents like, oh, that's what's happening. It's not me. I'm not failing. I'm not a bad parent. It's like they just haven't seen these cycles.
And it's not about as parents being perfect either. We're not, as human beings, we're not perfect. But, if we can do things better, then it benefits everybody at the end of the day.
Yeah, yeah.
So I suppose one of the things that we sort of were going to talk about was talking about sort of, the triggers of unhealed patterns of sort of trauma, or things that have happened in our childhood, or in, couples' childhoods, that actually, could have an impact, if you like, on their parenting.
Yes. Do you know, I can't tell you how many clients, how many moms and dads come to me and they're like, I've never shouted at anyone in my life. And, they've ever before having kids. And as soon as they have kids, they find themselves shouting every single day and they don't know how to stop. And that really was me. I was like the biggest shouter ever. And I'd never shouted at anyone in my life. And my daughter, especially my daughter, really, really triggered me. And that's because, when our children behave, it's neutral, but it's our interpretation. So we're unaware. A lot of the time we think we're reacting to our children, and we think it's our children that are causing us to shout and lose our cool. But actually it's the interpretation. It's through the lens of our core beliefs that create our triggers. So it's that awareness, and rather than trying to change our child to stop shouting. I remember when I used to shout, I used to think, if only my daughter would listen, I wouldn't have to shout. And she was thinking, if only my mum wouldn't shout, I would listen. It was like this dynamic that we were both waiting for each other to change. So it's realization that when I started doing the work and realized why I was shouting and what I was making my daughter's behavior mean, that's when everything changed. So really, our core beliefs are like these deep-seated stories we tell ourselves about who we are and how the world works. Like, I'm not good enough, or I only get love if I behave, and all these kind of messages we get programmed in through childhood, through our repeated experiences, not just from our parents, but from the world around us, our teachers, our friends, and they shape how we interpret and how we make sense of the world. And that's what happens in childhood with our own children. And those dynamics can be passed on from generation to generation if we're not aware of it. So it really is and it's really, I always think it is tricky to do the work beforehand, because we don't realize we have these triggers a lot of the time until our kids come along. Because our kids, they have an amazing knack of catapulting us back to the age they were and how we feel, and how it's kind of like an emotional reaction. It's not even, logically we know it's not true, but kind of those feelings we get remind us of experiences in our own childhood. But really understanding those dynamics and what we make our children's behavior mean about us. Yeah, so imagine, like, my daughter used to have major tantrums, and if I had this belief of, like, every time she had a tantrum that I wasn't good enough. You see, she has a tantrum and it's proof that I'm not good enough. It's proof that I'm failing as a parent because I can't manage her, I can't control her. Then in that moment, it's really easy for me to react, try and shut down the tantrum, tell her she's naughty, try and control the environment, walk on eggshells, not to have a tantrum. But then unknowingly, I'm passing that on to her, that she's not good enough, that there's something wrong with her. And that's how these cycles carry on. When actually, I might not like the tantrums. Yeah, I would rather not have the tantrums. But I can then, it's not about me, it's about supporting my daughter to learn the skills to regulate her own emotions, to be able to problem solve, to be able to handle, handle her own behavior. Then it's not about me. But it's that step of realizing your children's behaviors isn't a reflection on you. And that's the kind of work that really helps us show up as the best parent we can be, really.
Yeah, no, I think that's I think it's very interesting. I think the key thing is really it's awareness is so powerful. Just having that awareness makes a huge difference
Yes. A huge
in the whole
difference.
thing.
So many of us really do believe that we react to the situation. And it's so not true, because both of us could be in the same situation where we react differently.
Yeah.
So it's not the situation, it's the situation, and then we have the interpretation, which then causes our emotions, which then causes our behavior. And having awareness of those steps, a lot of us are unaware of that. So we go around trying to control the situation rather than our interpretation of the situation. And that's so much more, it's more easy and effective to control ourselves and manage ourselves than trying to control other people.
Absolutely. And I think the other thing about the whole thing about triggers is that they also show up in our relationships with our partners as well. And I think, I've experienced it myself, and with greater experience and knowledge, you start to sort of stop and go, hang on a minute, why was I triggered? What does this remind me? Where does this take me back to in my childhood that I'm suddenly feeling really about what's going on? And I think when you actually take that time to actually stop and think about it, why am I being triggered? Where does this go back to in my childhood? What was the scene? What was the scenario happening? What was playing out? That you can then not, I mean, I'm not saying you don't get totally triggered, but you don't respond in quite the same strong way as you did before, if you like, with that awareness.
100%. And it's so empowering. Like, you're in control now rather than waiting for somebody else to change. Yeah. So I have clients who say, when we do boundary work and about how to hold healthy boundaries, my clients are like, oh, I use boundaries with my friends now. I use it at work. I use it with my in-laws. And it's like, yes, you can hold boundaries and be connected. Like, boundaries don't have to be mean, because a lot of us were raised, with the rewards and the punishments and the telling off. And so we think holding boundaries is mean. And that's why it's difficult, especially for people pleasers, like holding a boundary with our children. If it makes us mean that we're a bad parent, then it's really hard to hold healthy, strong boundaries with our children if we believe that we're not being kind or loving. So it's those awareness as well of how to hold healthy boundaries, which has effect for all your relationships. Because really, that's it. Parenting really is about healthy relationships.
Yeah, it certainly is.
So
And I think the boundaries thing is a really important one, I think, because I sort of get the feeling that we've gone sort of from, certainly from the time of my childhood, if you like, from, quite strict parenting and, very strong boundaries to I think in a lot of cases now where boundaries are very lax, if you like. And for me, it's like I'm sort of feeling that we need to sort of bring things back somewhere in the middle between those two extremes. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
They're 100%, 100%, because boundaries really at the core, boundaries are who we are. Boundaries are all about our preferences in life, what we like and what we don't like, and what we want, and how we want people to treat us, and how we want people to respect our time and our property. And when parents lose it, when parents go past the point of no return, when they're like shouting and they go into threats and that out of control behavior, it's a sign that our boundaries have been crossed. And when we constantly go past our boundaries, we get resentful for our children, and we don't show up as the most loving parent we can be. But also, when we don't hold boundaries, when we don't support our children to respect other people's boundaries, they don't learn that for themselves either, because they don't believe people can have boundaries. And also, then we're not supporting them to have healthy future relationships,
Yeah.
because if they can't respect our boundaries, they're not going to respect other people's boundaries out in the world, and they were going to be quite entitled, and they're going to have not a lot of self-control. And actually, having boundaries is part of healthy self-esteem. Knowing what we like and what we want is really the basis of healthy self-esteem. So it is all linked. And how we hold boundaries is loving. I always think it's a loving thing to hold healthy boundaries. And if we're thinking about those kind of strengths we bring out in our children when we hold a boundary, is we're helping them learn self-control, adaptability, problem solving. We're helping them actually grow into better humans, which is we want. And if we are too permissive, children don't learn those skills.
No, that's
And they're
very
not very
true.
nice people to be around. I don't know about you, like people that don't respect your boundaries, it's kind of irks you. Like you feel it in those kind of relations. They don't make good friends. They don't make good. You see that when my kids are navigating high school. You see the children that have better times with peers is when they learn how to respect people's boundaries and still go after what they want in life, but respect other people's boundaries and not, bulldoze other people's. It makes healthy relationships.
Okay, so I think just sort of quickly now, really, it's sort of, have you got a couple of simple practices that couples could start now, if you like, to strengthen their communication and emotional resilience? We haven't got a lot of time left now on the show, unfortunately.
Yes. I think first off, first off, really is to talk about what you want and don't want. And part of your, what do you want your family ethos to be? What do you want your family values to be? How do you want, talk about your own childhoods, what you liked about it, what you didn't like about it, how you want to handle different situations, because that it's so important to make sure that you're aligned in certain things. It doesn't mean you have to have the same boundaries always, because we are our own people. But however, to have those conversations, to talk about and to talk about what you want the family routine to be, and what and how you see your future life together and plan your life together. That's key.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. So really, we're sort of coming towards the end of the show now, Camilla. It seems to have gone so quickly. So I'd like to just thank you ever so much for joining me. I think we've had, it's been a really important conversation, and I hope those, listening have found it of a lot of value. So please, can you share how people can connect with you and, contact you, and how they can get your Keeping Your Cool Parenting workbook?
Yes, you can find me on my website, keepingyourcoolparenting.com. I have my blog there, and you've got links to my socials. You can find me on Keeping Your Cool Parenting. It's all there. And you can buy my book on Amazon and on my website.
That's great. That's lovely. So if there's one, thank you so much for everybody for joining me. I hope if this episode has resonated with you, please share it with somebody else who needs to hear it. And if there's one thing I hope you take away, it's, that it's worth taking the time to create the best environment for conception to happen, but also to create the best foundation for parenthood. So, when you nurture yourself, mind, body, and spirit, you create the best environment for your baby to thrive in. So for me, it's really all about creating healthy, happy couples to make healthy, happy babies. And I do hope that you'll join me for the next episode. But until then, please take good care of yourself, treat yourself kindly, and I'll see you soon. Thank you for listening to the Conscious Conception Show with me, Sue Ritchie. To stay informed and inspired, be sure to tune in every third Tuesday of the month at 7:30 a.m. Pacific on Transformation Talk Radio. Subscribe so you never miss an episode, and sign up for my newsletter for helpful tips on boosting fertility and preparing for positive, empowered parenthood. If you're ready for more support, connect with me on social media on Instagram and LinkedIn and at Optimum Fertility, or visit my website at sue-ritchie.com.